Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama dance. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Nitya Leela Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय श्री वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय श्री मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की जय पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय इस्कॉन शिकागो न्यू सेवा कुंज धाम की जय Their most merciful Lordship Shri Shri Kishore Kishori ki jai Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai Shri Shri Gaur Nisai ki jai Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai ki jai Bhakti Devi Tulasi Maharani ki jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yajna ki jai Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai Nithai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga, glories to Srila Prabhupada. ISKCON Chicago New Seva Kunj Dham ki jai. Their most merciful Lordship Shri Shri Kishore Kishori ki jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai. Shri Shri Gaur Nisai ki jai. Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai ki jai. Bhakti Devi Tulasi Maharani ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yajna ki jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Nithai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Shri Radha Radha Daine Radha Radha Daine Hiranyakashi Purvaksha Shiratamkana Kalaye Ito Nisingho Karato Nisingha Yato Yato Yami Tato Nisingha Mahe Nisingho Hidaye Nisingho Mahe Nisingho Hidaye Nisingho Narasimha Madem Sharanam Kapate Narasimha Madem Sharanam Kapate Jai Simhadev Navakarakamalavari Rakam Tatputa Shringa Alisha Hiranyakashipu Panubinda Keshavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Hey! Hare So please repeat after me. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama. Rama Rama. Hare Hare. Turn to the person sitting next to you and say congratulations to them for bracing the cold and making it here somehow or the other. It doesn't matter if you're staying a few miles away from the temple or even if you're on the third floor. To make it down here takes a lot. So please congratulate each other for making it. It's a very cold day if you come. Rama Rama. Srila Prabhupada and Kishore Kishori, Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, Marian and Gaur Nitai, and be with all the devotees. This kind of warmth is not available anywhere else. For bracing the cold and making it here. So thank you for making it here tonight. Somehow or the other. A couple of, I think, nice announcements. It doesn't matter if you're staying a few miles away from the temple. We just ended 2013. And when we had started off a lot, so please we had assigned a goal for ourselves. The goal of distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, which is something that's happening across all of North America to revise kind of warrant. And each year we have been, so thank you for making it 20% increase over the previous year. Nice announcement. So in 2012 we had a goal of 12,000 books, which was very, very big for us. We had never done something like that. So we did 14,000, which was surprising. So 2013, we had a goal of distributing 20,000 of Srila Prabhupada's books, at least. So by September end, we had made, or we had crossed over 22,000 books of Srila Prabhupada. So in 2012, so the final numbers are not in yet, but we feel, we believe, that's easily 25,000. So we're very, very glad this has been possible only by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And all of you who somehow or the other have contributed to that. Either you have sponsored some books, you've gone out and distributed books, you've participated at MSF, in whatever shape or form you've participated. The devotees at the temple who've dedicatedly distributed Prabhupada's books, our little Sankirtan team. I don't know if you're aware that we started a small traveling Sankirtan party. Originally supposed to have been 3 devotees, it turned out to be 2, but they braved it. They loaded their books in a van and traveled to the local universities in the Midwest area and distributed many books. And this is just the beginning. In the spring and summer of 2014, more devotees want to travel like this, distributing books. So we are thinking that we should have at least a goal of 30 to 35,000 books, and more people will participate out in nature. He's been here in Chicago for many years, very ardently and fervently trying to revive the temple from some dark ages and periods. And his contribution is very invaluable to the Chicago community. He's very dear to all the devotees. He's an amazing speaker, a wonderful personality to be with, to be around and hear from. And for over the past couple of years has been traveling quite a bit to the Eastern European countries, spending some time in India and other places, and is now back for a short week and a half period with us. So let's give our full attention and happy Haribol to welcome Maharaj back to Chicago Temple. Haribol! Haribol! Anyone here for the first time from the small crowd that we see? Some new faces are there. Anyone here for the first time? All right. So we'll turn this way for today's lecture. And just a little change in program. Today no prasadam. It's cold, the cook didn't show up, so there's no dinner. The only prasadam is through the ears, so feed yourself as much as you like. No, that's a joke. The dinner will be served downstairs after the lecture. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Yeah, actually keep it way back there. Thanks for giving me a hint about what to speak about. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivara Girivara Gopi Janavallabha Girivara Girivara Yasodanandana Bhajajana Hamsaya Yasodanandana Bhajajana Hamsaya Jamuna Thera Hovan Sahidamu Jamuna Thera Hovan Sahidamuna Kunja Vihar Jai Gopi Janavanga Hari Har Dhar Hari Jai Gopi Hey Guru Har Dhar Jai Gopi Janavanga Hari Har Dhar Guru Har Shri Saurnandana Bhajajanandana Yasodanandana Punjabi Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Radhe Radhe Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Nitai Gaur Hey 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 Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Nitai Gaur Hey Ram and Nitai Gaur Hare Bho Hare Bho Hare Bho Hare Bho Nitai Gaur Hare Gaur Nitai Gaur Nitai Gaur Hare Gaur Hare Gaur Hare Gaur Hare Gaur Nitai Gaur Nitai Gaur Jai Jai Prabhupada 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 Jai Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Pastyatya Satarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The unexpected becomes the expected. And the expected is usually rarely ever happens. That's the way this world is. What's unexpected is more constant and current, and what is expected never usually happens, and if it does, it doesn't ever come up to the standard of your expectation anyway. Chicago is part of the material world. I'm sure everyone knows that. It's quite easy to understand. And there's places in the material world that are more or less kind of like places where there are more or less more material miseries than other places. When Srila Prabhupada was in Hawaii, he was talking about that. He said, if there's any happiness in the material world, it's in Hawaii. So don't buy your ticket right away, because we need you in Chicago. And Chicago has this history of cold weather. It's always been a place where there's always been extremes, really extreme cold, and extreme heat too. I remember in 1995 was the first year I came here. During the summer of that year, they had temperatures like 105 and 106. And people were, I think 400 or 500 people died in Chicago because mostly old people, they couldn't get out of their homes, and it was the heat just, was too much. But there's a story that goes back to the mid-50s where it became so cold in Chicago, I think it was like minus 50 degrees, something like that. It was extreme Fahrenheit. And so it was an emergency, and so people couldn't even keep enough heat in their houses. And people were freezing in their houses, so what they had to do was they got these gymnasiums, and they put big heaters in the gymnasiums, and people were moved out of their houses into gymnasiums only just to survive. And the most difficult part of it was everyone was expected that it would end, but it just kept going. It was a long, very long, cold period. Finally, at one time, this was in the 50s, and of course television wasn't so much, in people's lives. Mostly it was radio at that time. A few people had televisions. And the governor of the state of Illinois got on the radio and said, in a very desperate tone, we have tried everything to somehow or other change or avert this cold wave, and we realize we are completely helpless. So there's only one thing left to do. So I'm petitioning you, all of you, please pray to God. After everything they tried everything to, whatever they tried to bring about the warm weather, the change in the situation, nothing worked. And finally, a desperation plea by the leader of the state of Illinois, saying, "Please pray." Like that. So God became the last resort. He wasn't the first resort. And this is quite typical of life in this world, is that when things are going nicely, or we might say accordingly, somewhat nicely, there's this forgetfulness of God. And when things go wrong, or if someone wants something, they go to God. Right? Please, my dear Lord, give me this, and give me good marks. In school, give my kids good marks. Let me help find a nice husband. They're all bums, but there must be one out there that's any good, It's like that. So it's a tough life, when people are trying to fulfill their desires through praying to God for material benedictions. And I remember there was one story. I was in London, and one lady, she came into the London temple, and this was related to me by a good friend of hers. And she prayed really hard in front of the deity, "Please, let my son get 10 A's. He had 10 courses. She wanted 10 A's. And at the end of the semester, the boy got 9 A's. And she went back and she said, "My dear Lord, I prayed for 10. You only gave 9. What happened?" She was actually upset because the Lord didn't give him 10 A's instead of 9. So this goes on in the material world as religion. But that's not religion. That's prayer becomes money, and God becomes the merchant. So you give him your money in the form of prayer, and he gives you back your merchandise like that. Sometimes. But that's not religion. That has nothing to do with religion. It's a little better than not praying, but real religion is to ask God, "What can I do for you?" That's where religion actually begins. "My dear Lord, what can I do for you?" God is doing everything for us. There's no need to ask for anything. He's supplying everything. In fact, we would not even be able to exist 1 second longer without his personal care and mercy. He's taking care of each and every individual. We just can't see it. But he's providing everything we need in terms of the livelihood we require. And many times he's also fulfilling our needs and desires without our even knowing it. So that's a given. It's something that's automatic. Because God has complete equality of love towards each and every living being, and so he provides what they need, like that. Now, people act outside of the laws of God and create sinful activities, and therefore there is scarcity and there is difficulties when people act sinfully, because they break the laws of God and they break the laws of nature. And nature is God's instrument, and so nature punishes them, and therefore there's difficulties in the world. But those who follow the laws of God nicely, or even basically, they get everything they need. So that's not a concern. That's really not a concern to ask God what he can do for you. He's doing everything. But actually, our real need is, what can I do for God? So I was just thinking what to talk about tonight. And then I heard our temple president, Nityananda Pran, really gave me a hint of what to talk about. And that is, what's the thing that you could really do for the Lord that would bring great happiness in your life, great benefit to others, and great happiness in the heart of the Lord? And that's to distribute his message to others. He was talking about book distribution. In 1936, this was practically a few months before Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, departed from this planet. And he had come to meet his spiritual master at the most holiest place, Sri Radhakund, and near the Govardhan Hill, and near Vrindavan Dham. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, Prabhupada's spiritual master, was in great concern. And the devotees had become a powerful instrument in spreading Krishna consciousness all through the subcontinent of India. They had become popular with many, many political leaders. Many temples were opened. Thousands of people were coming to festivals. But in 1930, something happened that started to change the whole situation. Is that one very, very wealthy follower of Bhaktisiddhanta donated this beautiful palace made of marble, big building with many floors and many rooms, to the devotees to live as an ashram. Before they were living in small little simple, huts or rooms and traveling and preaching and doing so much to spread Krishna consciousness. But when that new building came, the whole atmosphere changed because the devotees were somewhat not willing to kind of like compromise. Everyone wanted a nice, comfortable position. And so they were fighting over the rooms and positions and so many things. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was really concerned. And he said to Prabhupada, with great concern, he said, there's fire in the mouth. Ajun Dwalbe, he said it in Bengali. Ajun Dwalbe, there is fire in the mouth. He said, before when we were living simply, there was so much camaraderie amongst the devotees, Krishna consciousness was spreading. Now we have this marble building and nothing is happening, everyone's fighting over this situation and that situation. So he said to Srila Prabhupada, who was a Bhai at that time, he brought his little son, Prabhupada had a little son with him, and he said, if you ever get money, print books. If you ever get money, print books. Because he said that there is the mridanga, and when you play the mridanga, the sound can go some distance. But he called book distribution called the Brihat Mridanga, or the Great Mridanga. He says that by distributing books, this sound of transcendental knowledge can go everywhere. And so, Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, the founder of the ISKCON society, made it his focus in building this society to distribute transcendental literature as much as possible. And we can honestly say that many of us, I know myself and many others, came in contact with devotional service, with Srila Prabhupada's mission, through book distribution. And Prabhupada made a correlated statement by saying that, he said the communists have become very, very, their literature has reached many people around the world, because somehow or other they were always on the street corners everywhere distributing literature. In the 1930s and the 1940s, it was a big thing. So Prabhupada thought, why don't we distribute books as much as possible? And so it began around 1971. The first book that was ever distributed in the street was an accident. It was an accident. Two devotees pulled into a gas station. They got gas for their car, and then they went to reach for the money, and then they realized neither one had money to pay for the gas. And then they said to the attendant, could you take this book in lieu of the money, instead of the money? And the man was a nice man. He's looked at the book. I think it was a Bhagavad Gita or something, or maybe one of the older, it was one of those small little red Bhagavad Gitas back in the 1970s that Prabhupada printed. And he said, yeah. And then the devotees started to think, wow, we can distribute books on the streets. And that idea spread, and then since then, that's how book distribution started caught on. And now, we have distributed almost 500 million books in the world. The figure is, that's recorded. That's what's recorded, almost 500 million. And what to speak about the unrecorded amounts of literature. And that's, we might say it's a very substantial amount also.
So Krishna consciousness spreads by book distribution a lot. And anyone who takes up book distribution and makes an effort to distribute Prabhupada's books will get special, special mercy. Krishna consciousness works on, if you please God, your life is successful. And by distributing books, it's one of the most direct and easiest way to please the Lord. Because it pleases Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada is so dear to Krishna, that by pleasing Prabhupada, Krishna is automatically pleased. Like that. So transcendental knowledge is what's lacking in society. In 1977, Prabhupada was in Delhi. This was in May of 1977. This was only about 4 months before Prabhupada departed from the world. 4 or 5 months. And he wrote a letter to the German disciples who were book distributors. And he encouraged them and he thanked them for the work they were doing. And then he ended the letter by saying, if anyone gets a book, if anyone simply touches a book, if anyone simply sees a book, of course, anyone purchases a book, any of these ways of coming in contact with this book, there's benefit for that individual. Even if they see it. If they touch it, it's even better. If they give a donation, how much do they benefit? Because books are literary incarnations of God. God comes in the form of transcendental knowledge. Just like we see the deity on the altar. The deity is Krishna. But the transcendental knowledge is Krishna in the form of literary philosophical teachings. So these books are actually deities. And in some temples, they actually decorate the whole altar with books. You put books all over. There's one temple I'm in just before the book marathon. They put books all over the place. Outside in the corridors, on the walls, in the halls, in the rooms, on the altar. You can't even walk. Just to remind you how important books are. So these books are actually, Krishna incarnated in transcendental sound vibration. So anyone who takes up this kind of activity becomes very dear to Srila Prabhupada. And there's some amazing stories connected with book distribution. Amazing stories. The stories are so amazing because when you're out there on book distribution, you're in another world. You've entered into the spiritual Shakti of Krishna's special mercy. And you become empowered. You become empowered. There's a nice story, Badri Narayan Prabhu, one of the GBCs, he was former temple president in San Diego. And this was back in the 70s. There was a new young man who joined the temple. And so Badri was trying to encourage him to go out on book distribution, and the boy would not go out. And finally, the boy said, all right, I'll try it, but it's just not my nature to do books. Badri said, I'll go with you. So they decided to go door to door. So they knocked, first door, they knocked on this door, and an little old lady opens the door. And Badri turns to the devotee, he's a little scared. Give her a book, give her a book. So he hands her a book. She holds the book. She's really an old lady. She looks at it. She looks at him. She looks at the book. She looks at him. She looks at the book. She falls over. She died right on the spot. Krishna was waiting for her to get that mercy, and then she just left the world. Of course, the devotees had to deal with that situation. And after that, the boy said to Badri, is it like this every day? He said, no, it's not. It's kind of a rare situation. So, you have the most amazing experiences out there. There was, in Holland, there was one book distributor. And sometimes in Holland, in Europe, the devotees, in many places, they carry like many books with them, big boxes. And this devotee had a real large quantity of books with him, Bhagavad Gitas. And he entered into a place he wasn't supposed to be. It was a security area of a private residential area. And so he was going to go door to door, but the security saw him. And so the security became a little over anxious and started to come at him. And the book distributor got a little nervous, so he ran with his books. And the security's chasing after him. So they're running and running. Finally, the boy runs down this alley, and he comes to the end of the alley, and there's no way to go. And he's thinking, what am I going to do? And then he sees a door. So he turns the knob on the door, and it's open. He goes in. He walks, and it's dark. He walks down this hall. He doesn't know where he is. He's walking down the hall, walking down. Finally, he sees a light at the end of the hall, and he comes out. And he walks out on the middle of a stage, and there's a program going on. And the program is their announcer. And the announcer, when he sees this person walking right onto the stage from the back part, he says, "Oh, you finally come. Thanks for coming. Did you bring the gifts?" And the devotee started to think, "Oh, okay, I'll play along with this, whatever it is, you know." So he said, "Yeah." He said, well, the man said, "How much do we owe you?" So he gave him he quoted some figure, wrote him a check, and then he gave him all the Gitas. And then the devotee said, "Excuse me, but what is this gathering you had?" He said, "This is the National Butchers Convention." And all the butchers got a Gita. So these are some of the most outstanding, amazing stories that you have on book distribution, because when you're out there, Krishna's practically, he's carrying your book bag for you. It's really a very, what we say, compassionate way to serve. Because people are suffering. Why are they suffering? There's enough food in the world. There's enough clothing. There's enough shelter. There's enough medical care. There's enough of all the material necessities. But people are suffering because they don't know who they are, and they don't know what is the goal of life. So the real suffering in this world is lack of knowledge. If you give person knowledge, then they can solve their own problems. If you feed a person, that's nice, and that's important. We also do that. But we understand 4 hours or 5 hours later, the hunger returns. So that's important. That's welfare work for the body. There's welfare work for the mind. And many organizations around the world make it their business to do this type of work. But our contribution is transcendental knowledge. Hardly anyone's doing that. When you have knowledge, you're free. Because that knowledge is the basis of the difference between suffering and happiness. What is that knowledge? When the basic understanding is that you're not this body. And whatever happens to the body doesn't happen to you. Well, who am I? The scriptures also teach us that. We are not the body. So to know what you're not is not really enough knowledge to really make you happy. Who are you? Jiver Sarupoi, Krishna and Nityadas, that every living entity has an eternal loving relationship with Krishna. And it's never lost, it's only forgotten. Everyone belongs to God. And when people have that knowledge, then they say, well, what do I do to bring about that relationship? And that knowledge is also there in the books. Serve the Lord. People are serving their families, they're serving their country, they're serving their societies, they're serving their dog, cat, and they're serving. Everyone is serving somebody. And even if they're not serving anything, they're serving their own mind. So, but service to God is the complete service. When we serve the Lord, then that service brings complete happiness and satisfaction. So one of the greatest forms of service is to bring others to Krishna consciousness. Everyone likes to do something nice for someone, right? That's called human life. Human life means to do good for others, right? The animals can't do good for each other. That's just the nature of the animal society. But human society means, what can I do to make another person's life better? That's the nature of a human being. And we do that with our friends, our family members, and with people in general. Sometimes people become very altruistic, and they want to help the whole world, right? Philanthropists, humanitarians, they set up huge institutions like that, and sometimes they sacrifice so much of their time, energy, and finances to do these things. So that's natural. This is called extended self-interest. That I do it for you, but because I get some benefit out of it. So one's motivated by their own self-interest. So either individual or extended. But when you take that same principle and you direct it towards the Supreme, that is the real self-interest. And that self-interest is without what we say personal motivation. So serving the Supreme means actually serving oneself, because everyone is connected with the Supreme. So when we know that, and we see that other people are in need, the thought is, what can I do? So Prabhupada has given us a very, what we say, accessible way to go back to the spiritual world. Just distribute books. Just give others transcendental knowledge. And there's so many ways to distribute a book. Somebody wrote something, 64 ways of how to distribute books. It's on the internet. I haven't read it, but devotees were telling me about that. 64 ways how to distribute books. So we may not be able to go out in the streets with the book bag and, go door to door, but you can always find a way to somehow or other distribute books like that. So, but we have to understand, before we can really distribute these books, we have to know what we're distributing. What is the value of these books? If we think it's just some philosophical literature, just like everything else on the market, we won't be inspired. But when we know that this knowledge is life-saving, because when people understand the goal of life, then they can start to begin to stop suffering. When you get a book, when you begin your Krishna consciousness, that's the beginning of the end of suffering. Doesn't mean suffering will stop, but that you finally came to the path where suffering ends at that point. So this knowledge is not something manufactured even by great sages. The great sages are getting Krishna. And through their own bhakti, Krishna inspires them within their heart. So transcendental knowledge is coming from Krishna himself. Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita. That was direct. We just finished Gita Jayanti, right? How important was that? The Gita itself, that knowledge in the Gita, Prabhupada used to say, or has said, if you read the Gita 4 or 5 times through, you'll understand the whole principle of Bhagavad Gita. Everything is there in the Gita. So maybe some of us are not inclined towards knowledge. We like to chant, we like to worship, like that. But the chanting and the worship has a basis in philosophy. You can understand what you get from this worship. How to worship, how to chant, like that. All that knowledge is there. How Krishna is receiving what you do. How Krishna is not pleased. God is not so easy to please. He's easy to please, and he's not so easy to please. You can give him everything, And doesn't mean he's pleased. And you can give him a little bit, and he can be very pleased. So what pleases the Lord? There's two ways you can please the Lord. Two categories. One is with love. If you do anything with love, Krishna's satisfied. Even if you give him a drop of water with love, it's the greatest gift you can give him. Because he wants your love. That's what he really wants. That's one way. So it's not so much what you give, it's the mood that you give it in. But another way to please the Lord is find out what pleases the spiritual master. And what pleases the spiritual master, when you follow that, then the Lord is pleased. So what pleases Prabhupada is to distribute his books. So even if we don't have any love, we can't come to that stage of loving Krishna. If we can distribute Prabhupada's books, Krishna is pleased. Just by that activity itself. So that's the key. That's one of the keys to the heart of the Lord, is pleasing those who are very dear to the Lord. And how dear is book distribution to Srila Prabhupada? So dear. It's so dear. This temple you're sitting in, I happen to know a little bit of a history. This temple was bought by the finances that came from book distribution. In fact, many temples around the country, USA, were bought by the profits come by way of book distribution. So our society has been built by book distribution. And book distribution will be the means by which our society continues to proliferate in different areas. So, and those who distribute books become recognized by Krishna. Prabhupada says, if Krishna recognizes you, your life is perfect. You know, God is not a small thing. We're small. God is great. How great he is, nobody can understand. When you say God is great, it doesn't tell you anything. But when you explain his greatness in different ways, it gives you a little indication of how great he is. How great is God? This world we live in is one simple planet in a small universe. There are unlimited universes, and on every universe there are many, many planets. This is one of the smaller universes in the creation. So it says that just like there's a jar of mustard seeds, huge jar. A mustard seed is really small. Ladies, if you cook and you drop a mustard seed on the floor, you can't find it. So small, right? So the comparison is that this universe is like one mustard seed in a huge jar of mustard seeds. So how many planets? And on every planet there's life. So God is not only creating all this, he's maintaining it all. He's maintaining every living being in every part of the creation on unlimited universes. And that's just the created part. What to speak about the spiritual world, which is great, much greater than the creation. So no one can even imagine the greatness of God. You can't even imagine it. Imagination can take you beyond intelligence, but imagination falls short of actual understanding of God. You can't even imagine how great he is. It's impossible. We get a little bit of indication of how great he is. But when he comes in his deity form, and he's standing there on the altar, he's welcoming us into his association. He's welcoming us into his darshan, like that. And that's Krishna in a very merciful form, because when he comes as a deity, he gives his association in that way so we can render personal service. But Krishna in the spiritual world is the source of everything in existence. Not only the source, but the maintainer. Not only the maintainer, he's also the instrument that decides when it all gets destroyed also. But that's not even the greatness of God. The greatness of God is that he has a personal, individual relationship with each and every living being. If you were to start in Chicago, and you would go to one place in Chicago and start writing a number, and just keep writing the number and go all the way around the world and come back to Chicago, that number would be still short of the living entities in existence. You can't even count how many living beings are in existence. There's no such number. They say if you give 2 numbers and 15 zeros after that, that number means infinity. There's no such number, 15 zeros, right? There's hundreds, thousands, millions, billions, trillions. What's after that? Gazillions, something like that. Jai Shri Shri Kishore Kishori Ki Jai. So God, Krishna, he has a complete and total, perfect, loving relationship with each and every soul. And the souls in the spiritual world are even greater in number than the souls in the material worlds. So if you can please that person, just think how great that activity is. I can please the most wonderful person in all of existence. You know, sometimes we become happy if we please our husband, our wife, or our children, or our boss, or our friends. There's a sense of satisfaction and happiness. Imagine when you please the person who created everything. When you think about it, it's kind of overwhelming. And Krishna's pleased when we distribute Prabhupada's books. Because Prabhupada is so dear to Krishna that, and Prabhupada explains about his own life, that Krishna told him, Prabhupada even told us that, Krishna told him to come to this world and do this work. Prabhupada is a Nitya Siddha. A Nitya Siddha means one who does not come from this world. He was sent by the Lord from the spiritual world to do this work. And he came down to do this work, and when he left, he returned to Krishna. That's how dear. He's part of Krishna's personal entourage. There's intimate, more intimate, and most intimate associates of the Lord. Just like you have a president, then he has his intimate associates, advisors, ministers, and there's different levels of intimacy and association. Prabhupada is very intimate to Krishna, extremely. And he came to do this work. Now, if you please Prabhupada, imagine how happy Krishna is. In fact, it's more, you get more out of pleasing Prabhupada than you do out of pleasing Krishna. Because the principle of love is, if you please someone who that person loves, that person is more pleased than if you please them directly. And the example is, if the person is rich, and you're thinking, what can I give to this rich person? He has everything. Oh, but he has a little son. So you give his son a lollipop or some candy, and the kid smiles, and he likes you, and he feels happy. The father feels, oh, thank you, you pleased my son. Right? So then Krishna's like that. So when we please Prabhupada, and one of the easiest and most direct ways, and the ways that not only pleases Prabhupada, but does such benefit for human society, is to distribute his books like that. But we have to read the books too, because we have to know what we're distributing. We have to know what is the value of this knowledge. This knowledge is life-saving. There's one story where devotees were distributing these books in one parking lot. And there was a man sitting in his van in the parking lot. And the man was committing suicide. He had taken his tailpipe and he ran it back into the cab, and he was running the engine. The devotees came, he saw this man sitting in his cab with the engine run. They knocked on his window, and he just waved them away. So the devotee was smart. He took the book and put it on his windshield and left. And then the man started to get a little curious. So after the devotee left, he rolled down the window and picked up the book, and he looked at it, and he just started going through it. And then there was one chapter, How to Find Real Happiness. If you're committing suicide, you're not really happy, obviously. And then he just turned off the whole thing, and he started reading it. And he got inspired. And just so happened, in the back of the book, there was a listing of the temples. And he found the closest temple, went to the temple and joined, became a devotee. I mean, there's so many stories. There's another story in Europe where the devotees, they stay in train stations in Europe. And when the train stopped for 5 minutes or 10 minutes at the different stations, they jump on the train and distribute books to the people. So this one girl, she jumped on the train, and this man didn't like it. So he just took the book out of her hand, grabbed it, and pushed her out of the train. He wanted to take the book just to make her feel bad. He wasn't interested in the book. But he kept it. He kept the book anyway. So many, many years later, that same man came down with terminal cancer. And he was desperate. So one day he was in his library, in his room. He was looking for the Bible. He was trying to find some solace in God's Word in the Bible. He couldn't find a Bible in his library, but he happened to come across the Gita that he took from that girl. He opened it. He started to read it, and he read the whole Gita. He couldn't put it down. He was amazed. He felt such, what we say, what's the word? Reassurance in his life. He felt, life was worth living, that by the mercy of God, he could somehow or other tolerate it. And he did. He accepted his terminal disease as the will of God after reading the Gita. And when he did that, he started to chant and practice Krishna consciousness. And guess what? The disease went away. He became so happy, he came to the temple. And he knocked on the door of the temple, and when the temple president opened the door, there was nobody there. Until he looked down, and the man was laying flat on the ground, in full dandavats, really appreciating it. He got up, he was in a very emotional state. He told this whole story and said he wanted to join the temple. That's the power, that's what happens when you distribute books. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know who's going to get this book, how it's going to change their life. Even if it's not the person you give it to, it may be someone who is related to that person. I should finish this story. That same man, he came to Mayapur, and he saw that same girl he pushed off the train. And when he saw her, he was so both happy and apologetic. And then he just apologized, and he gave her so many gifts, and he was just, she became his spiritual guide. And she never thought, well, he offended me. When you're out there, you can expect difficulties. And she accepted it as the mercy of the Lord. But many years ago, in fact, it was 1995, when I first came to the Chicago temple, there was this hippie. He came in, really long hair. So he started to talk to me, and then he found out that, I was connected to New Vrindavan. He said, "Can you take me to New Vrindavan?" I said, "Yeah." And then he kept coming. And finally, I asked him, "Well, how'd you find out about Krishna consciousness?" He said, "One day my father was cleaning out his books in his house, and he was taking out the old books in boxes. And I saw this book on the top, and I thought it looked interesting. So I asked him, can he give it to me? He did, and I read it, and it was the Bhagavad Gita. And then after I read half of it, I was thinking, there must be a temple here in Chicago somewhere. But then I looked, and there was no address. So I was thinking, he told me he was very unhappy. Then one day we was walking down the street, and again he met a book distributor. And he was so happy, and he asked, is there a temple? And the person said, yeah, and I explained where it was, and he came. And then we became good friends, and then one day I drove him to New Vrindavan, and he stayed there and took initiation and became a devotee. His father was just throwing out some old books. He just happened to see the Bhagavad Gita on the top. So these stories illustrate, you don't know who's going to get that book, who's going to benefit from that book. These are just like a few tiny bits of pieces in the unlimited history of book distribution. And there's such satisfaction when you give someone a book and they give a donation. You feel like, the feeling cannot be described. There's a sense of happiness that comes with that. So, because Prabhupada is pleased, it's not how many books you distribute. Of course, the more the better. But the fact is, if you're out there distributing books, you're getting Krishna's mercy. You can do it in your workplace. You can do it even through your home. You can do it anywhere. So, see what you can do. Everyone, if you carry books with you wherever you go, you meet somebody. Like when I travel, I usually carry mantra cards and some of Prabhupada's books, and sometimes I meet somebody on the plane or somewhere, and they say, "Why you dress so funny? Who are you?" You know. So, and then I explain who I am. And then, you know, sometimes we talk. I remember I was in flying tour to Hartford, Connecticut. I can't remember where I was coming from. And one man, he just started talking to me on the plane, and he was just really interested, and went on for a long time. And I happened to have some extra Bhagavad Gita, Back to Godhead magazines with me. I gave him the Back to Godhead, and he just started reading the whole thing. I said, "You could keep it." He was so happy. He said, "Is there address here?" On the back there was the address of the Hartford, Connecticut temple. So we think, somehow I've become fortunate because someone was kind to me. So in the same way, make another person's life fortunate by showing some. So therefore we can distribute books in any situation like that. You can go to stores, ask the business proprietors if you can leave some books on the counter, and leave a little box next to the books. They can come, give a small donation, take a book, like that. There's so many ways to distribute books like that. Okay, so, book distribution. Yes, Glenn. Yeah, book distribution is inspiring. What's the mood? That what I'm giving them is not coming from me, it's coming from Krishna. I'm simply Krishna's agent to somehow reach this person with this valuable knowledge. What you're carrying with you is the most valuable thing. Money is important, but transcendental knowledge is precious. It can't be compared to. Because when you have knowledge, you're free. You have knowledge, you're free. The story of Socrates illustrates that. I'll get back to your question. Socrates was a great philanthropist, a spiritualist, a revolutionist in Greek society. And he was preaching pretty much against the state, against the state religion. They told him, if you don't stop, you're going to take some action against you. He didn't stop. Finally, they put him in jail and they sentenced him to death. Then they said to him, "Socrates, my dear Socrates, when you die, what should we do with you?" He says, "Well, as far as my body is concerned, you can do whatever you want, but as far as I'm concerned, you have to catch me." He knew he was not his body. He wasn't afraid of death. So that's the benefit of transcendental knowledge. It frees you from the fear of death. It frees you from death, actually. And not only it frees you from the fear of death, it frees you from death itself. That's the benefit of this knowledge. You can be free from death. Because the soul is immortal, and the soul does not die. And when you come to self-realization, you realize that the body will leave, but I'm eternal. I go to another place, a better place. So when we have that understanding that I'm out here giving these people a chance for the greatest gift possible, how enthusiastic you'll be to distribute that. Enthusiasm is the life of bhakti. Anyone who's enthusiastic, even if they're selling garbage, right? If you meet a person who is selling junk, but they're enthusiastic about it, they have some Shakti. Because enthusiasm itself is Shakti. When you actually believe strongly in what you're doing, even if you're not doing the right thing, people will be convinced. Because it's conviction that actually motivates people. But when you actually have the conviction for something that is really beneficial for everyone, how powerful that kind of enthusiasm is. How does it enter into their hearts and minds? Yeah. So don't think I'm giving these people something, but I've been given something very valuable to give these people. So I have a, precious, it's precious, this knowledge. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.
Those of you who joined us later, you were not here during the announcements. Dinner is being served downstairs tonight because of the lean crowd. We'll be serving downstairs in the Prasadam hall. So please, through that door, find your way downstairs. You go out the door, turn right and downstairs. Thank you.
I very much appreciate your answer inspired me too. It's very, very joyful.
Tengo que acabar de leer. Tengo tres a la mitad. Una de que yo vi como es, o sea, tú les puedes hablar del libro. ¿Dónde está colorado? Gracias. Cualquier cosa se aguanta. No, en serio. Gracias. No, son muchos libros.
Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Bhakti Vedanta नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंद चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंद Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare mess up. What if they come right? What if they come right when I say Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna.
Haribo. That's something that I. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Yeah, my friend. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Nida Gora Haribo, 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 Gora Haribo. Na Gora Haribo. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Shri Radhe, Jai Shri Radhe, phone number for audio solution. I'm not sure. Anyway, give it to me. Vanasham. Oh, you got it from him? I didn't get his number. He was going to ask me.